So welcome everyone. As the Treasurer mentioned, my name is Rick Metters from Fidelity Investments. For those of you who aren't necessarily familiar with Fidelity, our goal is to make financial expertise broadly accessible and effective in helping people live the lives they want. We have assets under administration of roughly $5 trillion. I haven't checked the market today, so don't hold me to that, including assets under management in excess of $2 trillion. And for us, it's a focus on meeting the needs of really a diverse set of customers. So we have more than 25 million retail customers, folks who invest their life savings with us. We have nearly 20,000 businesses who manage their employee benefits and 401k programs with us. And we provide nearly 10,000 advisory firms with investment and technology solutions to invest their clients' money. We've been privately held for over 7 decades, and I am fortunate to work with over 40,000 folks, not only in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and many of the other states represented on this call, but across the country and across the globe. So it's my pleasure to speak on their behalf, and somewhat this particular presentation is a bit of an extension of a conversation that we started in Minneapolis roughly about a month ago at NAST's Treasury Management Training Symposium. Had the opportunity to work with Treasurer Mitchell, as Treasurer Magazine mentioned. Treasurer Mitchell served as the moderator of a panel that we called Innovative Public-Private Nonprofit Partnerships in K-12 Financial Education. Had the opportunity to work with Chris Caltabiano, Chief Program Officer from the Council of Economic Education, and Bonnie Wallace from Wells Fargo, to talk about how collectively we in the private sector can work with concerned nonprofits and with folks like yourselves who may be working in Treasury offices across the country. How can we collaborate, and what are some of the best practices that we can bring to bear to move forward financial education in this country? So what I want to do today, and then this is, like I say, this is a bit of an extension or supplement to that conversation, is to do a little bit of a deep dive with you today and talk a little bit about an initiative that we've developed in partnership with the Jumpstart Coalition. And Jumpstart itself is composed of many nonprofit, for-profit, and government entities to move forward financial literacy across the country. And so in particular, drilling down, talking about a program that they developed called the Jumpstart Financial Foundation Program for Educators, and how a project that is developed from our work with Jumpstart is truly, I think, creating a web portal for teacher professional development that does not currently exist in the educational landscape. So with that, I'll tell you a little bit about kind of what moved us to go this area. So clearly, as a company that works within financial services, the state of financial literacy across this country is one that's of I think, mutual concern or common concern to all of us on this call. So, and these are some statistics you may be familiar with, but more than 1/6 kids in the United States does not even reach baseline proficiency in financial literacy. And candidly, that bar is a fairly low one when we say baseline. So 1 in 6 kids don't even reach that very low common denominator. We know that more than half of millennials saying they're living paycheck to paycheck. In addition, I think of a cover story that was on the Atlantic Monthly roughly a year ago, which indicated that nearly half of all Americans could not come up with $400 in an emergency. So, you know, it's not simply in the K-12 space, but it's profoundly impacting the lives of thousands, if not millions, of Americans. And last but not least, according to the Council of Economic Education, only 17 states require students to take a high school course in personal finance. And when you drill down even a little bit more, that 17 number really becomes 5, to be quite honest, in terms of a requirement that has a rigorous curricula, assessment against that curricula, and the proper supports, including professional development for teachers, that many experts say is needed if you truly want to make an impact, if you want to move the needle in this space. So, with us at Fidelity, as Treasurer Magaziner mentioned, my job is to identify organizations, partners, programs, and activities where Fidelity associates can volunteer and make a real and measurable impact. And notably, despite the fact that we've been in business since 1946, a lot of our volunteer and charitable work in the community was not necessarily done within financial education. So Fidelity's legal name is Fidelity Management and Research. So we felt that we needed to do our homework in this space if it's something that we truly wanted to do, and it was something that our leadership had directed us to explore. So we came up with a two-part focus to our work, and we brand this internally Fidelity Cares. So alternately, I may say Fidelity Cares or Fidelity during the course of this presentation, and for all intents and purposes, they'll be synonymous. So, at the highest level, we want to ensure that all students, especially those in need, kids who have obstacles in their lives, kids who have to overcome any number of challenging life circumstances, that they have the foundation that they need to achieve financial success. So by means of personal background, before coming to Fidelity roughly 5.5 years ago, I worked with Boys and Girls Clubs. So 20 years of working with Boys and Girls Clubs and seeing firsthand the need in a most acute way. So we developed a two-part strategy that we believe that kids need a foundational education, basic literacy, basic numeracy, upon which then we can build those financial skills that they need to survive and ideally thrive in life. And those two pieces are really inextricably linked for us. And an emerging amount of research is showing that for financial education to be effective, that kids do need those basic building blocks of literacy and mathematics as well. And so in addition to the types of programs that we were talking about today, we also volunteer our time in schools doing everything from doing school transformation projects, physical transformation, to give kids an inspiring and inviting environment, to tutoring, mentoring, etc. And do that both in school and after school. And then we layer on the financial education programming, working with a number of great nonprofit organizations, whether it be Junior Achievement, Citizen Schools, the Council for Economic Education, Jumpstart, and their affiliate partners. So for us, it's two parts. And so in doing our research, we came across a study that was fairly remarkable, and essentially it showed this, that teachers believe that financial education is critically important. 89% of them actually agree that students should take a financial literacy course for high school graduation. I am married to a teacher and do have 2 decades of youth development work, and for 89% of teachers to agree to this, strongly, or agreeing that students should take a course to graduate is significant, particularly in a time when you think about the wider educational context in this country, in which teachers and students are faced with, we just passed the standardized testing period for most districts, with arguments over Common Core and state standards. Frankly, the most precious commodity that teachers have is time on learning with their students now. And for 89% of them to say that despite that, it's vitally important that financial literacy be taught is remarkable, frankly. So despite the fact that teachers believe this is vitally important, the flip side is this, that fewer than 20% of teachers feel very competent to teach this subject. And a huge disconnect when you think about the primary way in which we educate our kids is through our public schools. And the point of contact is with our teachers in the classroom, and for there to be this wide a gulf and disconnect was fairly disconcerting to us at Fidelity. So to be quite honest, when we thought about this, our initial view was, well, let's build a curricula that can address this problem. But in some respects, very fortunately, our friends at Jumpstart already had. And so they had created a model called the Jumpstart Financial Foundations for Educators. And what's interesting about this is that it focuses on teachers as adult learners, as consumers, as savers, investors. So it doesn't focus in on how to teach this subject. It actually focuses on the basics, the nuts and bolts about financial literacy skills. And so in that respect, though, it complements existing teacher training, teacher programs, professional development. It's suitable for teachers at any grade level. It doesn't matter the subject. We have teachers that teach this full time, teachers who embed these concepts into math, social studies, family and consumer science, etc. But we've also had teachers get involved with these programs that only tangentially bring it in, maybe elementary school reading. Heck, we've even had high school art teachers that have found a way, once they've taken these professional development courses, that they've embedded it into even art programming. The other piece that was very, very important to us was that anything that we did within financial education and something that we were going to roll our sleeves up with had to be research proven to be effective. And through the National Endowment for Financial Education and the work of Dr. Billy Hensley, who's their director of research, there was more than one multiple state study which had shown this particular model that Jumpstart had developed was effective in improving teacher competence, teacher knowledge, and teacher confidence as well. Because it's two pieces to this, both the confidence level and the knowledge level. It was critically important for us to make sure that this particular program does create the impact for which it's intended. Honestly, as we talked in Minneapolis on our panel, one of the common refrains was that we in the private sector, and frankly I think some folks in the public and nonprofit sector, have seen a number of financial education programs, activities, or tools which on the surface may be very appealing but don't necessarily have research verification that they actually work. And so for this particular model, it was very attractive to us because it was shown to work. We have actually done some additional research in other states as well, which confirmed the original research of the National Endowment for Financial Education. And currently we are partnering with the Jumpstart Coalition and our colleagues at Wells Fargo to do another multi-state research study on this particular curricula that will go another step further, because ultimately I think, but frankly, at the end of the day, we want to make sure their students are as well. So the study that we are currently working on with the Jumpstart Coalition and with Wells Fargo will hopefully show us just that. And we've begun that project with an entity called the Financial Literacy Group, which is composed of folks formerly from the Treasury Department, and they have an affiliation with the University of Texas. So we look forward to seeing their research, and hopefully as we move the needle with teachers, we move it with their students as well. What's notable about this particular model is that it's actually roughly 7 seminars or 7 workshops and roughly 20 plus hours of training. But among those particular 7 seminars, there were 2 that we thought from a fidelity perspective that we were really well suited to work with in terms of our folks, their knowledge, their background, and passion. And those were spending in financial planning and saving and investing. So what we did, working with Jumpstart and the Council for Economic Education, the other partners and their affiliates in the states where Fidelity has a significant presence, we have offered a series of one-day trainings that provide the content that Jumpstart seeks. And in addition, and you'll hear this will be a little bit of a common refrain, based on teacher feedback, we also give an opportunity for teachers to get exposed to great classroom resources as well. So despite the fact that this model is not designed to teach teachers how to teach it, nonetheless, when we do the in-person trainings that Treasurer Magaziner spoke of, we do provide them an opportunity to get some great classroom resources as well. So it's been a balance between what they probably need and what they want, and has been packaged in a way that's resonated with teachers. So we've taken this Jumpstart model, and once again, this is not a Fidelity model. We've had the privilege of delivering it, but it's a Jumpstart model. It's this collaboration of the great nonprofit partners whose logos you see in the lower right of the screen. And we've, to date, delivered it. We initially started in person. And literally tomorrow, we'll be having a training in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Treasurer Eisenberg from the State Treasurer's Office in New Mexico from Santa Fe will be coming down to take part in it. We've trained over 1,000 teachers to date. And what's powerful about this is that those teachers are standing in front of over 100,000 kids this year alone. So when we think about the work that we and many others do, oftentimes we work with kids directly, and we might have a small group. We may have a classroom. We might be fortunate enough to work with an entire grade or maybe even an entire school. But by impacting the teachers, there's a significant multiplier effect, roughly 100 to 1. Actually, a little bit more than that has been our experience. And then when you project out even further, and I think Fidelity has this mindset, and I think many of our peers do as well, when you think long-term, over the next decade, that number grows to over 700,000 kids. And that's even taking into account that roughly 8 to 10% of the field, folks leave the field in any given year. So that does take into account teacher attrition. So a significant and I think powerful multiplier effect. To date, we've had 20 events all across the country. As I mentioned, we've been fortunate to have public officials attend. CFP Director Richard Cordray attended our Columbus event. Treasurer Magaziner, his colleagues, Treasurer Dwyer in New Hampshire, Treasurer Eichenberg in New Mexico attended last year. Treasurer Goldberg from Massachusetts attended an event that was kind of embedded in a larger professional development program called Mass Saves. We've had over 300 Fidelity folks to date get involved with these trainings. So when you think about ratios, roughly 1,000 teachers and 300 Fidelity associates volunteering, we provide a really safe and I think supportive environment for teachers when we've done these in person, and roughly a 3.5 to 1 ratio of teachers to Fidelity folks, providing them support along the way. So as this program has been in motion, delivering the Jumpstart curricula in person to teachers, we saw, an opportunity. So, how can we bring this to scale? And Jumpstart said, well, gosh, can you initially, maybe videotape what you guys are doing in person? And frankly, we said, yes, we could, but not too many people sit down in front of their TV set at night after a long day of work and watch a 2-hour YouTube video. So we said, no, let's use some design thinking principles, use the best of what we do with our customers on the retail, workplace, or institutional side, and let's build a web portal, a learning management system for teachers. And so we had some guiding principles that we developed in partnership with Jumpstart and some of our executive leaders. So the key was this, that we want to listen to the teachers. That's something we do in our business, so it comes naturally to us, but it's really listening to the voice of the customer. And so at every step along the way, whether it be in our in-person trainings or as we've developed this web platform, the voice of the customers really drives how we form it, how we shape it, how we organize it. And I'll show you the ways where we fell short of that in early iterations of this. So, full disclosure, you're getting the good, bad, and ugly of all of this. It was and continues to be a collaborative endeavor. So it is leveraging the expertise of Fidelity, of Jumpstart, its partners, teachers, other educators, other subject matter experts, really making this a collaborative endeavor. So it's not owned by anyone. It is truly an enterprise that we have found some great synergies with and wonderful ideas from. Another piece is that to the point about, we could have done a 2-hour YouTube video for each module. We wanted to promote vitality here. We want to be innovative, impactful, and really take into account also the best practices of teacher professional development along the way as well. Do something that hadn't been done before in a way we thought could make an impact at scale. And the other piece, and this is something that, frankly, even our executive sponsors here said, was that anything that was produced as a result of this collaboration had to be of the highest quality. Even though our name isn't on this, Jumpstart's name is on it, we wanted to make sure that it would be as good or better than what we would deliver to our own customers. So that was the quality bar that we had to hit. So wanted to give you a little idea of where we've come from and kind of where we're going to before I give you a little bit of a demonstration of what we've developed. So as I mentioned, this wasn't perfection on the first try. So our first version, as you can tell maybe on the menu down the left here, was very linear in terms of developing it. And we figured that everything was going to be very linked and sequential, that teachers were going to go through this, and if they went through a lesson or a part of a module, that might then unlock resources that they could use personally or in their classroom. But the thinking was, let's lock them into a path, make sure they go along the path, complete everything along the path in the way that we have prescribed. We very quickly found out from teachers that thank you, but no thank you. That it needed to be far more flexible in order to meet their needs. They have professional development opportunities really sporadically when you talk about their own time. So we had to be thinking in 10-minute chunks, 15-minute chunks, maybe a half hour if we get lucky. So they didn't want to be locked in. They wanted to get materials. They wanted to get information on demand when they wanted it, how they wanted it, in multiple ways. And I'll show you how that manifests itself, that multiple ways piece manifests itself when we go into the demo. The second piece is this, that, okay, we kind of broke up this linear sequential way of doing it. And then we realized this, that when you have 7 decades of knowledge in this area, to be honest, we probably started talking far above the level of that we needed to. And also we were very very text heavy in what we were doing. So we realized that we needed to be, this is financial foundations for educators. This isn't PhD in personal finance for educators. So we had to recalibrate the information to make it far more accessible to folks. That's the point of it. It's supposed to be foundational. So make it accessible. And then if we want to do some additional deep dives, we have ways of doing that. But make sure that it's accessible, both in terms of the level of content, and frankly, when we came to text, it's accessible that you don't get that eye glaze right away as well. So basically, in a nutshell, we failed and we tried to fail fast, but all of the iterations have been based on direct feedback from actual classroom teachers, that voice of our customer that's driven this at all points along the way. So how did we do this? We actually had a couple programs called Discovery Day, a full day, get people in a room, totally go through multiple packs of sticky notes, whiteboards, really dive into the content with teachers. What do they need? What do they want? How do they want it? How do they want it delivered? Really trying to love the problem. Not love our initial thought of what a solution is, but really love the problem. And working collaboratively with teachers, and you see, folks literally working side by side, coming up with ideas. At multiple iterations, we then brought in our user experience, user design experience folks, brought in our tech web developers as well. Once again, bringing the volunteers with teachers in teams, kind of like the Scrum group, using design thinking principles. Really digging deep, in terms of what they need and how we can best create and deliver a solution for them. And so these are real folks. These are real Fidelity employees. More importantly, real teachers. And at multiple points during the course of these design days and discovery days, we've gotten invaluable feedback from the teachers. So where we are today, I think I showed you where we were. So these are the first versions, very linear, very sequential, very text heavy, etc. And so what I'll do is I'll transition to what is our web demo. So hopefully this will work just as it did in rehearsal. So hopefully I'll be able to transition off the deck and actually take you into a web demonstration here. Hopefully I'm still logged in. Okay, so this is the current incarnation of this web portal. From the very beginning, we have put our mantra up here: engage, inspire, appreciate. We want to make sure that teachers feel engaged in this material, that they have a love and passion for financial literacy that all of us on this call and beyond share. We want to make sure that they feel inspired and frankly empowered as well, that in any endeavor in life, the more knowledgeable and confident you are, that you feel you can take on anything. And I think that's critically important for public school teachers across this country. And last and absolutely not least, we want to make sure that teachers feel appreciated. You know, being married to a teacher, I can tell you that all too often it is a thankless job, and so at every opportunity we want to thank them. In addition, the joke I have is that being married to a school teacher, I can tell you that school teachers have opinions. I can definitely tell you they have opinions. In my spare time, though, I can tell you that I'm also a school committee member, which means that all too often those opinions aren't listened to. So as part of our appreciation, it's highlighting the work of great teachers, innovative teachers, and to make sure that we thank them. So that has been our mantra as we've developed this program. Up top here, we have the modules. This one right now currently has the saving and investing piece. We're adding the spending and planning as we speak. In addition, we try to make this really easy to navigate. Resources that they can use, teachers can use for themselves as they go through this training, but also if they want to repurpose these resources for their classroom, they can do so quite easily. Once again, we mentioned spotlighting teachers, ensuring that they're recognized and appreciated, always providing multiple mechanisms for feedback to listen to their voice. So I'll scroll down a little bit. It describes what the Jumpstart Financial Foundations for Educators model is. Once again, it's teachers' own knowledge and their own confidence in the subject. We have these teacher spotlights. These are real teachers that have gone through our program and that continue to contribute to the program as we develop this web platform. And then to make it really easy for teachers, we also have popular lessons here, which is actually a subset of the module. And then drilling down even further, those resources that were at the top, you find them here as well. So a teacher can literally come to the home page if they want to use a video or a compound interest calculator or have an article that they saw within the training module. It's accessible here as well. And we did that purposely, that there's multiple ways of finding the information you want. That is a purposely designed redundancy. We found that teachers interact with this website differently. They learn differently, and I'll go into a little bit of detail on that in a moment. And that we purposely created these redundancies in the design, and that's been very well received by the teachers. So let's we can go into one of the lessons here, and I'll go into investment types. This was identified by our partners at Jumpstart as being one that's particularly challenging for teachers. So let's dive into this one for a moment. And so this is kind of the heart and soul of what we're doing in terms of conveying the information to teachers. We try to set the scene for them, what the objectives are for this particular lesson, different investment types and risk profiles, where they fit in terms of their own financial situation, risk tolerance, time horizon, and to the extent that risk tolerance has influenced their investment decision. And so once again, we try to keep, you look at, once again, you see the additional resources. We have a survey. Once again, echoing the pieces up top here: engage, inspire, appreciate. And we also understand that teachers want this information for themselves, and they also want to provide these materials at all, if they can, to the classroom. So we've given them that option, and we've made it really easy for them. So if they want to print out notes, if they want to use PDFs or anything that that's on the online course I'm showing, we make it really easy for them to do that. So I'll dive into the course a little bit. Just take a second to load up. Okay. And so as you can see, we came a long way from that initial graphic interface that was very sequential and had all the lessons here. So at all times, they can always go back here if they want, or go back home. It makes it really easy in terms of navigation. But as you can tell, this is very clean. And so what we did was made it a little bit easier for folks. So hopefully you can hear this.
Welcome to Lesson 2. In this lesson, you'll be introduced to the three main investment types: cash or short-term investments, bonds, and stocks. These are very broad categories known as asset classes. Each has distinct attributes that influence risk and reward. Reward is, of course, your return. It can be...
So hopefully you get an idea, very basic, very introductory. And I'll go through a couple more slides here, and hopefully you heard that. If you didn't, if someone could ping me, that would be great. But we go, you basically start in terms of short-term cash, bonds, stocks, and we get a little bit more complex as we go. The risk-reward piece, try to be transparent about what the pluses and minuses are. In addition, we've included resources below that allow teachers to do a deeper dive for themselves and their students, and I'll go into that a little bit. But that's the same thing when we talk about resources. They were also here as well. They were also up top here. So that built-in redundancy. So you get it during the course in a timely fashion. You can, if you forgot about it, you can go back if you want to and go from there. Okay. Building sequentially in terms of different pieces of this topic. Moving on to mutual funds, a little bit more complex, a little bit busier in terms of the graphics, but hopefully not overly so. Once again, resources on there. This Mutual Funds 101 happens to be a Fidelity piece about what mutual funds are, and it's done in a pretty, I think, friendly way for folks. It's not technical in nature. We have one video that compares a portfolio manager of a mutual fund to a sushi chef in terms of putting together a plate of various pieces of sushi for a customer. So we try to make this material more accessible for all. And once again, getting a little bit more complex, how do you put together a portfolio on these pieces, a little bit deeper, and even creating exercises as well. So this happens to be an asset allocation piece, and we actually have an activity which basically will give scenarios for teachers. If you're about to buy a house in the next 6 months, should you be in cash? Should you be in stocks, bonds? What's the mix? If you're 25 years from retirement, should you, what particular asset allocation would be best for you? It's not investment advice. It's broad brushstrokes type of information. And as you go through, there's opportunities to make some interactive pieces here. There's personal quizzes that you can assess your own risk tolerance. So to give you an example, this is an actual survey developed by a Jumpstart partner, Rutgers. And so it takes you to material here. And of course, this could be used by the teacher, or it candidly could be used in a high school class as well. So basically marrying resources, making them accessible to teachers, and then building upon these concepts from the simple to more complex. It's rebalancing your portfolio, and then bringing it all together at the end. And we have quick quizzes for teachers that they can use for themselves and their students as well. If they want to repurpose it, that's up to to them. Once again, this is primarily, and we keep saying this over and over again as well, this is developed for teachers, for their own knowledge, their own competence, but we understand that teachers live their lives looking through the lens of the eyes of their students, and that we are fully aware that teachers want to be able to repurpose materials whenever possible. So we make that easily done as well. Even though it's not designed to be a classroom resource, we know invariably they will want to have that option. So with that, I think we're getting close to what we allocated for question and answer time. So I think Jeremy or Emma, probably ready to segue into some questions and answers if folks have them, either on the chat or however you want to take it from there.
All right. Well, thank you, Rick. This is Seth Magaziner again. That was terrific, and thank you again for sharing and for creating such a vast array of resources that we can potentially take advantage of in our home states. So we can take questions from anyone on the call. I think probably the best way to do it is to enter your question into a chat box. And hopefully I know how to use the chat box well enough to read it. I'm not seeing any at the moment unless anybody else is. I have a few questions that I can ask. Okay. So my first question to you, I guess, would be, this is a very comprehensive set of initiatives. Oh, we just had one come in. Sorry, so we'll hold mine for a moment. This question is, I can't tell who it's from, but it says, what was the assessment to determine that students don't reach basic levels of financial literacy? And what was the assessment indicating that millennials don't come up with money in case of an emergency? Did you have the sources for those off the top of your head?
Yeah, so the first one, I believe, is from the Council of Economic Education. I believe it's a survey of the states, if memory serves, but I'm happy to double check that. I have those documents and original research. In terms of the millennial piece, that is also a Council of Economic Education figure as well.
Terrific, thank you. So I was going to ask, just as you've been in your role for several years now, and as you've been ramping up all these programs, what have been the greatest challenges that you faced in setting these up?
Yeah, I think we go into this Treasurer Magaziner with a fair amount of humility, to be quite honest. As I explained in the first two iterations, we thought we had, a solution that was going to work for teachers, and I think, ensuring that we involve them as full partners and collaborators on this has helped us overcome that sort of initial challenge. I think we see a lot of sort of creating and go it alone in the financial literacy space, and I think, frankly, that was our impulse as well. And as we mentioned last month in Minneapolis on the panel discussion, perhaps collectively we could think more about curating rather than creating financial literacy content and learning materials, particularly in the K-12 space. I think there's some great material out there, and I think the other piece is that making sure that if we build it, that they will come. Kind of that Field of Dreams line twisted a little bit. Trying to make sure that you have created a resource that will be useful, that does fill a niche, and at the end of the day, not only improves teacher knowledge and competence, but ultimately, hopefully the research will bear out that impacts students as well.
Okay. Another question that came in online was, when will this website be available for use?
So our hope is to have it ready when the kids go back to school this fall. That we'll be able to roll out the the first two modules, the spending and planning and the saving and investing module. That's what we're driving towards right now. So you guys, in many respects, have seen a pretty significant sneak preview of that.
Another question that came in online was, can we offer this website on our state treasurer's website without any requirements or consultation? Can we link to it? Can we have it as a page on our website? Or do we need to make arrangements with someone before providing the website on a treasurer's website? So could you maybe just speak generally about, if we wanted to link up with you guys to take this great work you've done and use it as a resource and communicating with folks who visit our website, what would the protocols and the process around that be?
Sure. I think, as you see, the website doesn't, it's branded Jumpstart, and we've done this on behalf of Jumpstart. So knowing that Jumpstart is by definition a coalition of public, private, and nonprofit entities, I think in the immediate term, you can reach out to me. My email address is rick, R-I-C-K, Metters, METTERS, at FMR, Fidelity Management and Research, so FMR.com, or the Jumpstart website. You could ask about it at, when we get to be, when the calendar turns into, let's say, September, you could contact them directly as well. I would be stunned, shocked, and chagrined. Can I use all three? If there was any issue whatsoever, I think we would be thrilled, and Jumpstart would be thrilled if state treasurers could feature this on their website. So, yeah, I assume that at the very least we can work together on that.
Great. And are there any other things that you think we as treasurers should be doing to take advantage of this resource or any of the other programs that you're involved in at Fidelity? What in general would be your advice to us for what our next steps should be?
Yeah, I think if there's some lessons learned, and this is not really as an expert on this, but just kind of from experience and learning from trial and error, in some cases multiple error. I think it's really creating those collaborative opportunities. You as a state treasurer, not you personally, but Treasurer Magaziner, but others, you don't have to do this alone. You don't necessarily have to create the wheel. There's some great content, great partners out there, and I think you all have limited time, limited resources, limited budgets, and I think that my unsolicited advice, I guess, would be to look to entities in your states and beyond, folks that are concerned about this issue, and reach out and work together on creating solutions to solve specific problems in the financial literacy area, particularly K-12. And that could be with other public entities too, whether it be state boards of education, states attorney generals, and others to get involved with this. I'm seeing some great innovative work, though. I can even think of here in Massachusetts, Treasurer Goldberg's office has put together a website, myfinanciallifema.org, which, candidly is just really top notch. So, we're seeing some creativity. We're seeing some wonderful partnerships that are moving the needle. So collaborate, think about curating rather than creating, and I think there can be some great results that we can all be proud of.
Thank you. So just one more reminder for everybody on the call, if you have a question for Rick, the best way to get that in is to just type it into the chat box. I'm not seeing any others at the moment, so I think we can wrap up a few minutes early, but could you repeat, Rick, just once again, what is the best way to get in touch with you folks to follow up? And then do you have any final words of wisdom for us? I'll do the easy answer first. Once again, you can reach me via email at rick, R-I-C-K, don't forget that dot in between, Metters, METTERS, at FMR, Fidelity Management and Research.com.
In addition, if you want to reach me via phone, 617-563-1003. You can reach me. I'm sorry, in terms of words of wisdom or advice, I tend to think that let's look at the research, look at what works, and that will ultimately determine how we can best make a real and measurable impact at scale. There's certainly ample evidence showing us that there's an acute need, particularly in the K-12 space, but I think we have a tremendous opportunity working together to mitigate some of those numbers that we referred to at the very top of the presentation. I don't think any of us can feel comfortable in the positions we're in, knowing that families are struggling, knowing that families find it difficult to save for their kids' education, that's challenging to buy a home or to support a parent nearing the end of their life or facing our own retirement. And I think to the extent that we can all work creatively, collaboratively, with using all the resources that we collectively have to bring to bear, I think we can begin to solve this problem and make real and meaningful change.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much to Rick and to Fidelity for putting on this webinar. Thank you to all of the folks at NASS, to Emma and Jeremy for making this possible, and especially thank you to all of the participants and to everybody back in their home states who are pushing ahead on this issue in a range of different ways. Thank you again, everybody, for calling in. Thank you, Rick, and we will look forward to doing this again in the near future. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity.